Dr. Kate Hilliard, registered dietitian at the Antonio E. Garcia Center. And today's topic is going to be about mindful eating. Now, you may have heard it as mindful eating, intuitive eating, so really all of it is very much the same. And it's getting connected with your food. So much of the time, we are very distracted with how we eat. So whether it's in front of the television, while we're on our cell phone, even while we're driving in our car, there's so many ways that we can be distracted when we eat. And of course, when we do that, we tend to eat a lot more than we initially maybe set out for. But also, we may not choose the healthiest items when we are snacking or eating out of distraction. So I have some few simple tips to help you be more mindful of the foods that you do choose. So if you feel like you tend to be an overeater, it's really important that you figure out what's causing you to overeat. And sometimes it's as simple as noticing the portions that you may be serving yourself or someone may be serving you. So a good idea is to have smaller plates that when you're putting portions on the plate, if it looks fuller, we tend to enjoy that a lot better. However, if we're using big plates and making that very full, that's an easy way to overeat. So sticking with smaller plates, so instead of a 12-inch plate, kind of going to a 9-inch plate can be very helpful for you. Also, a good rule that I like to use and teach as a dietitian for when we're not eating with distraction or kind of eating with our surroundings is making sure that when you are eating, whether it's a snack or a meal, that you are seated down at a table versus on a couch or in your car. So making it a hard rule of that nothing goes in your mouth unless you are seated down at a table and fully engaged in the food you're about to eat. Another smart thing when it comes to portion sizes is to already serve up your 9-inch plate or your smaller plate when you're eating in the kitchen and then bring it to the table. When you have all the food that you've cooked out on the table, what we call family style, when we do have that food out, research has shown that we tend to eat more because it's right in front of us. Versus if we just have it on our plate, eat what's there, we tend to not always go back for seconds in the kitchen. Or if we do, we choose a little less. So it's smart to already plate your food before you bring it to the table to make sure that you're keeping your portions in check. So when you're starting to eat your food, it's important that you chew slowly and take as many bites as you can. So you've probably heard of that when you've heard of, tips to lose weight. And it does really hold true. When we don't chew our foods thoroughly enough, it can actually lead to stomach upset because our food is trying to digest, trying to break down as small as it can be. So you can definitely give your stomach a lot of help by chewing your food as much as it can because food digestion does start in the mouth, not just the stomach. So taking your time to really chew through food and swallow it, and then you can pick up, of course, another piece. So using those tips can really help make mealtime a lot slower, a little more focused, and a lot more enjoyable. One tool I love to use that is super simple, it's counting from 1 to 10, is what I call the hunger and fullness scale. Now, it's important to notice what's driving your eating. And it really should be hunger, right? That's the point of eating, that's the point of food, is to fuel us, to curb that hunger that we do get. But many times we eat out of mood, out of stress, out of anxiety. And so being able to really hone in on what's making you eat, but also if you're at a point where you are hungry enough to eat. So the hunger and fullness scale is a scale that goes from 1 to 10, and you can simply find this online. 1 being that you're ravenous, that you're so starving you could eat this page that's in front of you, okay? So we never want to get to a 1. It's never smart choices made there. Number 2 is that you're starving. So you feel like you must eat right now and that you may not care what's put in front of you. And again, if we fall into around a 2, that's where we don't make smart decisions because we just want to get food in our mouth. 3 is where we're hungry. So eating would be pleasurable, but you still could wait a little longer if needed. And this is a pretty good place to be. Okay, you never want to fall lower than a 3. But looking at a 4, you're starting to feel the hunger pangs. So you're hearing your stomach kind of talk to you a little bit. You're feeling that you're a little bit empty too. And so you really notice your first thoughts of food around this 4 range. So when you're wanting to eat, or you're sitting down to a meal or a snack, to really ask yourself, where are you starting off at? Are you starting off at a 3 or 4? Because that would be ideal, that you're hungry, that you're having some pangs, because then you can make smarter decisions, smarter choices about what you're eating versus a 1 or a 2 where you don't care what's put in front of you. So assessing your hunger and realizing that a 3 or 4 is the perfect place to be. And this is where snacks can come in handy if you're not eating a meal for a while and you don't want to dip to a 1 or a 2. That's where it's smart to have a snack to kind of keep you in the 3 or 4 range so that you're ready for your next meal. Now a 5 is when you're satisfied. So after you eat, during your eating too, you want to be shooting for a 5. That would be completely ideal, that you're content, you're comfortable, you're neither hungry or full, and you can't really feel your stomach at all. So this is a great place to be to keep giving you energy throughout the day, especially if you're eating lunch and still having to do work afterwards. You know, sometimes we feel kind of tired and sluggish, but when you're eating to be at a 5, to be satisfied, then you have enough energy to finish out the day strong. So a 6 is where you feel full. So you can definitely feel food in your stomach. And a lot of us tend to eat to this point, that we want to feel full if we are eating. But many times that can actually lead us to, like I mentioned, feeling tired, feeling sluggish, if we're a little too full. Because what does happen when we eat is that our body has to digest that food. So all the energy, all the focus of your body is to break that food down. So a lot of the blood, a lot of the oxygen actually flows from out of your brain, kind of out of your extremities and into your stomach to help break down, digest that food, and that's why you feel a little tired. So keeping in that 5 range of satisfied would be great. 6 is where we're kind of tiptoeing into a little bit of a danger zone. 7 is when you're very full. So your stomach actually feels stretched and you feel that sleepiness and that sluggishness. And that's what we kind of want to avoid. Now we can keep moving forward and look at an 8, which is discomfort. So your stomach really is too full and you wish that you hadn't eaten so much. And most likely you make the comment of, I shouldn't have eaten so much. That's how you know you're at an 8. There was way too much food. So 9 is that you're stuffed. Your clothes feel very tight, very uncomfortable. If you think of, Thanksgiving Day, kind of unbutton, the top button or loosen up that belt, that's kind of way too much to the extreme side. But of course, there's still one last number, and that's 10. And that is feeling sick. So you feel sick, you're in pain, or maybe both. And we definitely don't want you to get into that range. So typical Americans, we tend to be around anywhere from 6 to 9. And ideally, we want to be about a 5 or a 6, where we feel satisfied, we feel full. And again, we don't want to get to that 1 or 2 range, so we make smarter eating choices. So using this hunger and fullness scale before and after you eat can really get you into the habit of realizing how much food that you're really consuming and if you kind of need to reduce the portion sizes that you are having. So use this tool and see how it can help you. So now I'm going to walk you through a mindful eating exercise. And you can do this at home where you're at. What you'll need is a food in front of you, so just a little bit of it. I have some yogurt covered raisins. You can also do this with dark chocolate. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it out of the bag, out of the package, and you only want to take just a little piece of it, okay? You don't need the whole thing. But here I have my yogurt covered raisin, and the whole thing about mindful eating is I'm engaging my senses. I'm really focusing on the food. I'm not eating these out of distraction, because this would be easy to polish off if I'm just in front of the television, if I'm driving in a car, and I'm not really recognizing what I'm putting in my mouth. And it doesn't tend to satisfy, and I'm usually looking for food later on. So what we're wanting to do in this exercise is really notice how satisfying food can be, and even if it's just a little portion size. And this is very helpful for something with desserts that are a little sweeter, because we don't need much sweetness. 1 or 2 bites is actually the most satisfying bites you can take of a dessert. After that, our brain kind of loses that engagement, but we usually finish it off because it feels pleasurable to us, although our threshold for sweetness has kind of already gone with that first and second bite. So first and second bites are always the most satisfying. So something like my yogurt covered raisin, which has a little sweetness to it. What you're wanting to do in this exercise is take whatever food is in front of you, and I want you to look at the texture of it. I just want you to look at it. I want you to look at the size, the shape. Now, for this little yogurt covered raisin, I noticed that it's very smooth. It has little ridges in there, which kind of take on the ridges of the raisin. Okay, so noticing the color of it, and I can see the texture. And I'm feeling it in my hand as well, so I can feel the smoothness to it. And from there, you kind of just want to smell it. It smells a little sweet. Take a big deep breath. And then now you can taste a little bit of it if you want. If you choose, if you're getting the flavor, you can let it melt in your mouth as well, especially if it's something like chocolate. And know that your mouth is already starting to digest what you've put in it. So you're getting the flavor of it. And again, just keeping engaged. And then put it in your mouth, but kind of leave it there. Let it melt. Get all the flavors from it. Get the textures. So I'm tasting, I have the shell of the yogurt, which is melting. I have the raisin, which I'm having to chew through a little bit. But I'm getting that raisin taste, I'm getting the yogurt flavors. It's very nice. So take a few chews. And most of it's actually already melted, so I didn't have to do much work there. But now that you engaged in the food, to kind of reflect too on, what did you experience? Did you really taste that food for the first time versus just kind of shoving it in your mouth? And of course, you don't have to do this every time you sit down to eat, because meals would take for hours. But being able to realize that we need to connect back with our food. And so again, that exercise, you can kind of repeat it and again, kind of take a little longer, see how many times it takes you to chew that food. But you'll notice that you are more satisfied with a lot less food. Another great tool that's very helpful for kind of focusing in on mindful and intuitive eating is keeping a food journal. And so specifically a food and mood journal. If you tend to eat out of emotion, this piece is so important for you because you want to know what emotions are driving your eating. Because if it's not just hunger, like we looked at the hunger and fullness scale, there's definitely something else that you need to address. So something like a food journal that actually asks what mood or emotion that you were in while you ate can kind of pinpoint and hone in on that activity. So here on our food and mood journal, this is just a template that we found online. And I like to use it because it has an area to where you write your food down, anything you drank, your stress level. So when you're eating, it kind of asks a stress 1 to 10. This is, of course, where you can add your hunger and fullness scale instead. That would be a perfect addition to this spreadsheet. And then here on the side is your body, your emotions, how did your body respond? How did your mood affect it? And so if you had, say, your breakfast this morning was donut and coffee, and you tend to look at that your hunger and fullness scale was you were a 1 or a 2. You were starving, you woke up, you were rushing to get to work. And so what was your emotion? Well, you were stressed. You were, just on your way. You're looking for something quick. Versus a healthier breakfast, which could have been something like a yogurt or a granola bar or some apples and peanut butter. And so realizing too that the more that you can even plan ahead for your day versus just eating whatever comes across your way is a lot more efficient and it can be so much better for your blood sugar and definitely for your health. Now, some other things too that you can record on a food journal is how much water you consume, because most of the time the hunger that we feel could actually be dehydration. So in order to rule out dehydration, it's important that you do drink plenty of water. And sometimes it is smart to drink water before a meal or before a snack to see if that was kind of what you were feeling as hunger. It could actually be because you were thirsty. So making sure to track your water, and of course getting enough sleep. Mindful eating cannot work if you're doing everything just exhausted and tired, because our body uses calories for energy. So when you are tired, when you're not getting enough sleep, you're tending to want to crave things that are high in fat, high in sugar to give you that boost of energy. And same thing with caffeine. If you're very used to having a ton of caffeine to make you just work throughout the day, recognizing that can definitely dehydrate you, but you're also not solving the issue of getting more sleep and getting more rest. And so even watching your caffeine intake to be more mindful of that and cutting it off at a certain time. If you do drink 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day, making sure that you're cutting it off before the afternoon so that you can sleep in the evening time. And of course, getting off of those cell phones, any bright lights, any distractions that could really make your mind be a lot more awake when you should be at a state of rest. So getting sleep is a huge key to mindful eating, recognizing your hunger and fullness before and after you eat, and also being able to record and recognize what emotions are driving your eating can be super helpful for your mindful eating journey.